Oh, it must have been another country. Yes, it must have been another land. That couldn't happen in the USA. We'd never treat a man that way.
My name is Stephen Sindoni, and thank you for tuning in to the Bush Connection Revealed. Let me start by saying I'd rather be proved wrong by a formal investigation than not to have my claims investigated at all. I am not a conspiracy theorist. All I am seeking is the truth. A number of months back, a friend introduced me to a controversial interview by a man named Erik Orion. Erik Orion claimed that he had been given information by a man who claimed to be Otto Skorzeny, Adolf Hitler's personal bodyguard. While listening closely to this radio interview, I took out my notebook and quickly began writing down key components in his story that he entitled The Bush Connection. One of the many allegations made by Erik Orion that interested me specifically was his claim that our 41st President of the United States, George Herbert Walker Bush, was really the son of Dr. Nikola Tesla's illegal immigrant German-born accountant George H. Scherf Sr. Otto Skorzeny claimed that father and son were sent to America to befriend, spy on, and steal inventions from Nikola Tesla to help Hitler win World War II. Skorzeny himself was tried and acquitted of war crimes at the Nuremberg trials. He was not a wanted Nazi war criminal after World War II. What makes this story so shocking is that Skorzeny claimed that he personally helped SS Nazi war criminals escape justice by establishing new fake identities for them in the Federal Witness Protection Program. He then gave them U.S. government jobs meant for American citizens in the CIA, FBI, and United States Post Office. Skorzeny led Operation Paperclip and the Odessa to hide Nazi war criminals. Skorzeny claimed that he and a man named Gellin murdered the world's greatest inventor, Dr. Nikola Tesla. It was the following information that really piqued my interest. Skorzeny also claimed that he had conspired to murder President JFK with his fellow SS Nazi war criminals, Brunner, Mengele, Gellin, George H. Scherf Jr., also known as George Herbert Walker Bush. Otto Skorzeny, in his deathbed confession, went on to say that George Scherf Jr., alias George Herbert Walker Bush, was the infamous badge man behind the fence at the grassy knoll when JFK was assassinated. After listening to the entire interview by Erik Orion on the Bush Connection, I took the long list of allegations made in his interview and researched the ones that I thought that I would be able to either prove or disprove. I began my research by going to the public library and researching the genealogy birth records for George Herbert Walker Bush. With over millions of names and birth records, surely I should find some information on the birth of our 41st President, George Herbert Walker Bush. Surprisingly, I was unable to find any records for George Herbert Walker Bush. I then tried many variations of his name, giving our 41st President the benefit of the doubt. But I was still unable to find any records of his birth. I then searched through the 1920 and 1930 United States censuses looking for records that would prove that his father was really Prescott Bush and that he himself was who he claimed to be. But I could not find any records of George Herbert Walker Bush on any of the U.S. Census searches that I was conducting for 1920 and 1930. I had been stonewalled. How could a man become the 41st President of the United States of America without being a naturally born U.S. citizen? And if my information was correct, why would the FBI, who conducted his background check, clear him to become the 41st President of the United States? I now ask you, the American public, to conduct your own investigation. I'd like to end by thanking everyone for listening.
Oh, it must have been another country. Yes, it must have been another land. That couldn't happen in the USA. We'd never treat a man that way. Oh, it must have been another country. Yes, it must have been another land. That couldn't happen in the USA. We'd never treat a man that way.